I can assure your colleagues this will not take forever. It gives me great pleasure and indeed a privilege to move the vote of thanks to our President and outgoing President, John Douglas. John has led the movement over the last 2 years with conviction and with passion, and has been an acolyte for all of us in the trade union movement. He took over office at a time when the trade union movement, our members, and the wider society has been assaulted by austerity over many years. And questions were begin to ask, what was the trade union response? He is showed to be a credible champion, setting out values in pursuit of the very fundamentals of what trade unions are about. He has built and rebuilt self-esteem within the movement, and he's put in place structures where both not just trade unions and members and workers generally, but the public at large have supported the trade union movement in many of initiatives over the last number of years. He's proved to be a leader of integrity, a leader of passion, and a strategic leader. As President of Conference, he's put in place, through his chairmanship of the Executive Committee, a consensus approach, which you have seen, delegates, is not an easy thing to do within the trade union movement. He's been very focused in terms of being a hands-on president, and whether that has been about sitting in with workers in the Paris bakery, whether it's been supporting workers in the Greyhound dispute on the picket line, supporting bank workers being maligned and attacked on an ongoing basis, supporting colleagues in Northern Ireland in their public sector dispute, and supporting colleagues in the public sector through difficult times. John has been out there as a leader, as a supporter, and given a vision of what trade unionism is about. His leadership, I suppose, is also best personified by the stance taken by Mandate to take on Ireland's biggest employer, Dunnes Stores, and to support workers for the right of a decent working pay and conditions of employment. And not only in doing that, he united the trade union movement around that issue, an issue like precarious work, whether it be in teaching, whether it be in other areas of our industries, to identify the roots of what trade union is about. And to that, John, we're extremely grateful. Of course, John is a very unique individual. He's renowned to those that know him personally as the Peter Pan of the trade union movement, and shares the same barber as Vincent Brown, because as the rest of us get older and greyer, he gets older and darker. And I'm assured there's no bottle involved in that. For those that know him, he's a remarkable singer. So much so that when he closes his eyes in many public bars over the last 2 years and gives a rendition of the famous Old Triangle, when he actually opens his eyes, he actually has cleared the bar before the song has ended. But on a serious note, he has a strong commitment to the trade union movement. And in giving thanks, I think we must also recognise that this could not happen without the support of his President, Joan Gaffney, about the support of Aisling and Jerry and the Mandate trade union movement. And I want to thank them as well for supporting him in doing a fine job on behalf of the Executive Committee. Also, at times like this, we forget, all of us, that we can't participate without the support of partners, spouses and family. And I particularly want to thank Patricia, who's a very long-standing member of IBA, the Finance Union, in giving the support to John, and indeed his 3 children and grandchild, to thank them for giving us the opportunity to have him as leader over the last 2 years. Colleagues, the evaluation of any leader, when you try to measure, you look at the state of an organisation when you start out, and you reflect on it when you leave. And I think, John, you can take great pride and indeed satisfaction that this trade union is greater because of your involvement, that this trade union has actually gone back to its roots, and that this trade union is beginning to re-emerge as a very clear challenge in a society that is changing, but there's an awful lot of work to be done. So can I just thank you for the manner you chaired the meeting. There is a lessons on traffic lights before you leave the organisation, before you go home. Can I thank you also for the manner in which you chaired and led the Executive Committee over the last 2 years. And can I just thank you personally for being a valued friend and someone that we will all look up to into the future. Thank you very much indeed, John.
Broderick Alison Millar to second that.
Okay, follow that one. First of all, again, it's a privilege to second the vote of thanks in relation to John and his role as President, because this was my first 2 years on the Executive Council, and John, certainly you helped me guide my way through the first few meetings and made me feel very welcome. As we all know, John is a passionate trade unionist, and he has been all of his life, and he learned lots of that about trade unions from his father's knee, I understand, and speaks very dearly of his father's role and his role in the trade union, and how proud his father would be that he could carry out such good work for all the workers of Ireland, and I would want to add my thanks to that. In 1994, John spearheaded the amalgamation of 2 unions to form Mandate, which has led to this being a bigger and stronger union and delivering more for its members. And I think right across the island of Ireland, certainly, John, in leading the dispute on the Duns workers and on other disputes, is that certainly the role of Mandate has been lifted in that, and certainly it's been very difficult, I would know, for you, being President of Congress and also trying to lead such a major dispute. But you have the support of every union in this hall in relation to that dispute. People in this hall will also know that, John, doesn't matter whether it's presidents or politicians, is that you can speak to all of those, any high-profile person, but where you find your leveller is that you're a man of the people and you speak to members with the same respect, whether it's an ordinary member of a trade union, whether it's trying to get a non-member to join the trade union, or whether it's with high-profile people such as politicians and presidents. But you do have your own style in doing that, and you're a brilliant networker, and I think lots of people in the hall will know what that means. Certainly, as I've got to know you, you've never left the ordinary man or worker behind, and certainly in the Paris bakery dispute, I understand you even took to sleeping on the floor of that in that dispute. In your opening address to conference, you also mentioned your love of Ennis, and I think part of that love was your love of fishing. I'm not quite sure how you get time for much of the fishing over the last 2 years. But I understand when you go for a week's fishing, 40% of the time might be fishing, and the rest is casting your net, socialising with friends, and certainly having been once or twice in John's company, John, you also know how to socialise well, and you're usually the last man standing. And maybe a few things certainly that I didn't know about John in coming here this week. I understand from some of his colleagues is that he's very good at something, although also maybe you're getting a bit old for it. I think some of your colleagues are telling me, and that's the art of breakdancing. So I understand, and I haven't witnessed this, so maybe we should see some breakdancing before the end of conference. And in addition to that is also John appears to like dressing up a bit too. And recently at a staff party, I understand, he dressed up in a banana costume. So again, maybe we can have some of that at a different event. And also, maybe in relation to other bits and pieces that his colleagues have told me, is that I'm not quite sure, John, if this is your own suit, your own tie, your own shoes that you're wearing here today. But sometimes I'm told he forgets those, and his colleagues in the office, particularly the male colleagues, often recognise when he's on the TV, that's my shirt, that's my tie. That's my shoes. So hopefully that John will return all of those things to you at some stage. And also is that he has a particular affinity for glasses, but if he loses his own glasses, may pick up some others. Particularly the pennies ones with the bright rims around them. So we've all seen a different side of John, perhaps that you didn't see this week. But maybe, John, if we'd all give the delegates in this hall those pennies lights with the lights around them, then we might have noticed this a bit more and made conference chairing much better. So, John, I want to thank you very much, certainly, for making my first 2 years on the Executive Council very easy to get into the flow of things, and wish you well for the future.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you.